Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another live session with me, Opeyemi Shokunbi. I hope today's session is going to be engaging and you'll be learning a lot as we interact. If you are joining me from Nigeria, from Lagos, and any part of Nigeria, please feel free to let me know. If you are joining me from outside the country, from Canada, from Australia, Japan, US, anywhere, please freely let me know. I'd love to say thank you to everyone who will make our time week on week to join. You are the reason why I'm always happy to show up and to engage you. I know how busy we all are, and I can imagine how much of your time you need to sacrifice to join the sessions. It means a lot to me. When I say it means a lot to me, I really mean it means a lot to me. All right, so today we'll be having another interesting discuss. How do you prepare for crisis? How do you try hard to ensure that when the unknown happens, when that which you don't want to encounter happens, what do you do? How do you respond? How do you manage your team? How do you structure your business and your operation to ensure that there is resilience, there is opportunity for you not to die, there's opportunity for you to have quick, rapid business response? Not response that is, for the grams, but real responses that are intertwined and ingrained into your daily business operations. And that's what we'll be looking at today. I'll also try to ensure that we have some case studies to speak to real life scenarios, what has happened and how did organizations respond when they had crisis. All right, a bit about me. My name is Opeyemi Shokunbi, the Chief Technology Officer at Press One Africa, where we help enterprises to solve business communication issues, whether it is voice, messaging, internet data, whatever it is that you are having issues with. Our goal is to optimize it, give you a good experience, and help you ensure you engage your customer and your employees. All right, this session is a weekly session that speaks to practical insights and tips on how to navigate real life issues and business challenges. And we create opportunities also from time to time through some of these scenarios. All right. Our outline for today, we'll do a recap of last week, just 1 minute speaking to what we learned the past 2 weeks. We go into our main discourse and summarize. All right. The last 2 weeks we spoke about from solo performer to team leader, how you transform yourself from being an individual contributor to a manager within an organization and a leader. Spoke about how you embrace continuous learning, the importance of seeking mentors and peer support, how you need to cultivate emotional intelligence in interacting with your peers, subordinates, and senior leaders. We also spoke about how you communicate clearly and listen actively, not only to engage people and sound wise or deep, no, but to listen and understand first and foremost before you then respond or you take any other subsequent action. Right? We spoke about how you dedicate and ensure that your team then become your superpower. You multiply yourself through your team, meaning that before you used to do this, solo ride. You used to get things done all by yourself, but now you need to leverage your team and let your team be that wings that you will fly through. All right, set goals and align expectations before goals are set for you by your leaders, shared with you, and then you run with it. But right now, you have to be able to crystallize the objectives of the organization, set a goal that your team can run with, and align the expectations for them and communicate it clearly to them for them to achieve their objective. Provide feedback and coach regularly. Feedback, we always say, is a gift, but you need to provide the feedback and coach the team from time to time so that they can keep improving. All right, conflict will always arise, and when they do, what do we do with them? We would need to have difficult conversations and resolve them before they become a mess, a crisis, or an issue. All right, you need to master time management and prioritization. This is critical for you to be a success and what we call a star at your new role. If you don't prioritize the right task and provide the answers or the result at the right time, then it will impact other organizations or other business units, and that would not make you a performer. Navigate the organizational landscape. Now, we've learned that politics within a business or an organization is one thing that cannot be properly documented. So you must understand what it is about your organization and find a way to navigate it. All right, those were the things we learned. If you can catch up with the videos, they are still online, LinkedIn, you will be able to learn from them. All right, the icebreaker. It's 4:30 p.m. on a Friday. You are about to close. The day has been good. You are setting out to leave the office. Then you got a call from your organization's biggest client that they just terminated their contract. Legal called you and say, are you aware XYZ organization just terminated our contract? While you are still, unboxing or, sipping in the emotion to say, what has happened to us? You then hear from supply chain that your key supplier has gone bankrupt. While you are still trying to resolve that one in your head, your top performer then sent an email to say that I'm done. I have seen a better opportunity. How do you respond to all this? I would love to ask a simple question to say that if this is you and these three scenarios just happen to you, what will you do? Are you ready to respond appropriately? Or you are going to be scampering? You are going to be running helter-skelter. You'll be asking yourself, what has happened to me? You'll be asking yourself, what did I do wrong? You'll be asking yourself questions that you cannot provide answers to. And by that time, it is late. If you are ready, drop it in the chat to say, we are ready. Or if you think you are not, I think that's why we are here today, to speak more as to what we need to do and how other organizations, young, small, big, have navigated this challenge. One thing I would love to note quickly as we move on into the discourse of today is that you will never avoid crisis all through your life. Crisis will always happen. The question is not if. The question is when they happen. How do you respond? What do you do? And how do you ensure that your organization is not going to be, drowned or swallowed by such an issue? And today, to add, a tweak to what we've been doing in time past, we'll be having one or two case studies here and here to learn how organizations did it in real life scenario. Good, bad, and in some cases, ugly. All right. Now, leadership, as it were, will always encounter crisis. And when they do, it's not about a list of predefined rules or plans, but most importantly, it is the behavior, it is a mindset that will prevent them from overreacting and help them look ahead that is critical and important. Now, common crisis triggers. This will keep on updating and we'll keep having more. Are things like key personnel departure, supply chain disruption, technology failures, market volatility. The past 2 years when FX was a challenge, almost all the major multinationals declare losses. Because how do you, manage having your loans in FX doubling overnight when you compare to the local currency that you use in repayment. Right? Cyber attacks and natural disasters. These and many more are some of the crises or common triggers that you will see for you to get yourself into or find yourself in a crisis. All right. The first is the foundation building. And here we'll be looking at how organizations are prepared to handle sudden departure, loss, or even sometimes a critical partner, switching sides to a competitor. All right, the first thing that will come on board and I would love to suggest as an action to take for framework number 1, which is foundation building, is that we need to develop what we call scenario-based succession matrices. You need to put in place dynamic leadership succession beyond your traditional org charts. Most organizations say this by mouth. They say this by documentation, but in practice, you rarely see them prepared enough. And when things go wrong, they find themselves in power tussle, power struggle, and all sort of things happening. Now, how do you achieve this? You map critical knowledge holders, meaning that you know that these are the core experts in your business. You cross-train multiple people in you transforming to a great leader. Last week, we spoke about how you ensure that multiple people in your team can produce similar reports. Say, for example, you have 10 reports you churn out, you have 3 team members. At least each of the team members should be able to produce 5 minimum of those reports. And in good scenarios or cases, you make it 7 to 8. That would be fantastic. So that's an example of cross-training multiple people. Now, another thing is then you create decision-making delegation matrices. Where Mr. A is not available, who do you talk to for this kind of function or this responsibility or this decision-making? That will ensure that you build a team that in the middle of a crisis, they will be able to respond appropriately and not react. All right, our case study will be the Access Bank Group. We'll look at one of the SaaS scenarios that they had. Now, industry insight says we should leverage what we call the 72-hour rule. Now, the first 72 hours determine crisis trajectory, whether it's going to get worse, get terrible, get ugly, or it will be managed properly. Now, leaders who act decisively within this window maintain control. Those who hesitate lose it permanently. And Harvard Business Review had, quite extensive research on crisis response timing to, back this 72-hour rule. Now, develop 72-hour crisis response protocol with clear succession. When A is not available, what happens? Who does what? And this is critical. Later on in our conversation, we might talk about things like even business continuity planning or disaster recovery plan. But I would not want to make this too techy or too complex. That's why I'm not bringing all those up right now. Imagine scenarios where there is no telecommunication service in an organization. How do you think organizations respond? I'll keep that, and if you want to know more, maybe later in the discourse, I'll speak about things like that. Now, an African proverb says that the tree that will grow high must lift its roots deep. The tree that will grow high must lift its roots deep. Now, what you need to understand is that strong crisis response requires deep foundational preparation before the crisis hits. When there are things like tornadoes, earthquakes, and what have you, natural disasters, the buildings that will stand after the entire disaster has started and completed are the ones whose foundation has been prepared to withstand those, natural occurrences or natural disasters. Yes, there is nothing you can do in some cases and in most cases, but how you build a business, a team, and the foundation of your business in terms of the people organization is critical. Now, crisis preparedness is built in peacetime through solid succession planning. You don't do it in the middle of chaos. You don't do it when things are, in quotes, not, things are already going south. You're already in the middle of that problem. You're already in the middle of that crisis. That's not when you do crisis preparedness. It is done, during the peacetime. Now, our first case study is Access Bank succession for the late group CEO and co-founder. When Albert had the helicopter crash with his family, what happened in real life was that within 4 days, the Access Holdings appointed Bolaji Agbede as CEO. And it was, one of the statements said and quoted, "in alignment with our robust succession planning practices." I would imagine, and I would say that for a group as large as Access, in that 72 hours, following that 72 hours rule, in less than 48 hours, they would know exactly what they need to do and how they need to go about it. But when you look at our credentials, when you look at our profile, you see some things were very, very, clear. She was one of the most senior founding executive director with 27 plus years of experience. According to what we see, there is clear succession matrix already established, imagining about minimum 3 to 4 people that could, replace Herbert on short notice. They have always had a clear succession plan on how to move forward. And the outcome is that there was ability maintained despite tragic leadership loss. And this is a good example that we need to really understand that we don't plan for crisis. We don't plan to have crisis. But when they do happen, what do we then do? And this and many more are the things that organizations need to do, think about, put in place, things like succession plan. Not just talking it on lip service, but doing it in reality. All right, the next one is communication excellence. You cannot, and I repeat, you cannot over-communicate during crisis. So you need to establish the crisis communication rhythm. And what this simply means is that there needs to be a regular pulse check, structured protocol, communication protocols, meaning that there will be like a tree of how to communicate and how the communication is cascaded. And for the pulse check as to how people are feeling, how do you have a system to get to those pulse check? This can be both internal and external to the organization, because there are some crises that you need to focus on your internal first before you go external. It depends on the nature of crisis. And how do you, have this excellence, communication excellence? Is that you must have predetermined channels. You must have the message templates. You must have clear decision-making authorities as to who says who and who does what. For the predetermined channels, you need to ask yourself, in the middle of crisis, maybe these channels will not be available. So let's explore channel A, channel B, channel C. In some cases, if how you communicate with your employees is through things like exchange, email, then let's imagine a fiber cut that will not allow you to be able to get across or send that email to your employees. Yes, we'll say that you can go back, look for other sources of internet, connect to VPN, find other means, send the message. That's okay. But when you use that means to send the message, what then happens to your employees that do not have that wherewithal to use that same other means to check their emails? So you might think of other things like SMSs. You might think of other things like even the line managers cascading to their team members. Several methods, several ways, but you must have predetermined channels to ensure you go about doing this. In some cases, you might even do a radio or TV broadcast to ensure you can get across to that segment of people you need to communicate with. For the message templates, you need to prepare them ahead of time, have them approved, have them aligned, and then you can use them when you are in that crisis. Now, the communication paradox is what should be said, what shouldn't be said, how should it be said, when should it be said. And this is where you need to understand that over communication during crisis is impossible. It's absolutely difficult for you to over communicate because people sometimes are already in panic mode. People are in a mode where there is so much, uncertainty, and each of these words spoken or said is what will alleviate this uncertainty and help your team to be, together. So you must establish communication frequencies that feel excessive in normal times, but prove adequate during crisis. So you ask yourself, do I do it every 24 hours? Do I do it every 6 hours? Every 4 hours? Depending on what you think it's okay. But as much as possible, you cannot compare regular times to crisis times. The crisis times will need to double or triple when it comes to conversation or communication rather. The key factor is informal velocity matters more than initial accuracy. What this simply means is that as much as possible, you will not have all the context at once. Say, for example, in the case of the loss of Herbert, not all the things will be known at the same time. The cause of the accident, the location of the accident, the number of people involved, whether people were saved, were the emergency response able to salvage some injured participant or injured crew member. There will be so many things that will be unknown. So the little that you have, that fractional information, gather it, make sure it's clear, send it out. And by the time there is more information, add it to that one, send it out. So it's more important than waiting and saying, oh, we need more data, we need more record. No, little is enough in crisis when it comes to communication. All right, a single bracelet does not jingle. This Congolese proverb. Effective crisis response requires coordinated team effort rather than individual heroics. Communication must be orchestrated across all levels. So as much as possible, try to refine, fine-tune, and run the communication through your system and get everyone's opinion. Not everyone will have a calm head, so make sure you have as much calm head in the room as possible when it comes to communication, so that things are done ethically and they are done professionally. All right, still on the case study of the Access Bank crisis communication, what we observed was that there was immediate notification to Nigerian exchange within 2 days, clear, transparent public statement across all channels, consistent messaging. Access family mourns the loss. We extend our deep and sincere sympathies. Rapid stakeholder engagement with investors, employees, customers. For the cultural integration, the chairman of Bakajimo's statement honored Africa's value. We extend our deep and sincere sympathies to his family and loved ones. And what was the result? Share price stabilized quickly due to transparent, rapid communication. The next is that you need to build resilience into your system. Prepare, and I mean this, prepare to make all necessary changes during crisis. Crisis is not going to be there forever, and that's why crisis takes more energy than what is required in normal terms. Imagine the Access Group, for example, where a loved one has been missed or lost. How do you expect the team to still have the same kind of charisma, the same kind of energy, and then you'll be able to go through all the things they need to do? Thankfully, the first two framework we've looked at will be helpful to manage and help such a team. But when it comes to some organization, some are so complex and the nature at which they do things across different geography, speaking to different regulatory compass, different landscape in terms of taxation, and several other complexities. So you must build system resilience. And the action is to build anti-fragile systems architecture, meaning that you need to understand what will work in a climb and build it into your group structure, so that you will not say, oh, this is how we do it in Nigeria. So you go to Cameroon, you say what we do in Nigeria will work. No, you need to understand that it's a different terrain and things will be totally different. So what you need to do is processes that become stronger under stress and not just resilient. So you try hard to ensure that how do you strengthen all your processes across board. So don't say, oh, it's published in Nigeria, it will work in Ghana, it will work in Cameroon. No, it doesn't work that way. Even what works in Lagos may not work in Ogun State if you are a business. And you need to understand the peculiarity to see exactly what you need to do and how do you put yourself under so much stress that as much as possible, it will strengthen the business at the core. And when any issue goes wrong, it will be able to sustain the business operation. And an example is redundant supply chains. So you will not say that your alternate plat or channel of sourcing for a key raw material is maybe 3. No. For a key raw material, the alternate source of channels of sourcing should be as much as between 8 to 10. Because the good part is you will not use those 8 to 10 all the time. The only thing you will do is that to test that channel still has availability, you will group them. You can group your supply chains or sources into 3: major, medium, and minor. So when you order 80% of your items from the major, you can depend on the medium for the remaining 15%, while the minor will do 5%. So that in the day one of the major is impacted and there is room for another 40%, you can then spread it between the medium and the minor supply chain channels. It's critical, it's important. It looks very theoretical as I'm looking at it, as I'm saying it, but when you look at it in practice, you will understand that as much as possible, you cannot depend on one giant. Even a giant tomorrow can have a problem or an issue that will throw them off their hook, and then things will spiral that they will not be available. At that point in time, where do you source from? All right, diversified revenue streams. So if you have 3 or 4 major products, you need to understand that it's not enough for you to be comfortable, for you to stay put. And just like in manufacturing, your SKUs cannot be like 10, 15, 20 and you are happy. No, in some cases you need to break it down to have as much as 40, as much as 50. Yes, if you're a small organization and you still have 2 SKUs or 3, all you just need to tell yourself is that what can you do differently? Can I even co-create a product with someone else and we will sell that product? And there are several use cases that you see organizations do. Even sometimes they are competitors, but they will find a common ground and partner together to unlock diversified revenue stream. Modular structures. Yes, you don't need to build a phantom or a large entity that everything will only work from one end. If you are not in HQ, this will not happen. You will try hard to build a modular structures that as much as possible, if possible, you can break them down and the business will still continue to run without all the functional or entities. And as I'm speaking about this, I realize that most times we don't build some of these things to be modular. We don't build them to be something that as much as possible, if one unit is not available, the other part can function properly, but we'll build them as holistic and one unit. All right, organizations continue normal resource patterns during crisis. This is what is called resource allocation inertia, where organizations will continue normal resource patterns during crisis. This is not supposed to be. You need to find a way to ensure that during crisis, whatever resources is required to run optimally and functionally, you will invest and make it done. So what successful leaders would do is that they will reallocate resources towards crisis response, even at the expense of standard operations. Because if you don't survive the crisis, what you call a standard operation may not resume and may not come back. So you need to understand that you must redirect your mindset and your mind frame to manage the crisis as appropriately required. Now, when the music changes, so does the dance. When the music changes, so does the dance. You cannot move from, say, for example, Afrobeat to hip hop, or let's say Afrobeat to jazz, and you still be doing the same dance. No, it might, be tantamount to someone saying you have an issue of insanity. All right, successful leaders adapt their systems and approaches to match crisis circumstances. Rigid systems fail, adaptive systems thrive. I know of some feedback of some CEOs who said to their IT team during the response and initial planning for COVID that don't worry, it's going to be long. Don't let us rush people going away or going into their offices. Whereas there were some that said, let's start testing our infrastructure. Let's start seeing what is working, what is not working. So as from tomorrow, 50% start working from home. Next, 75% start working from home. Let's understand the problem that those ones have. When we can fix the problem that those ones have, then we move 100%. And when we move 100%, we'll not have so much problem any longer. These are, the way some CEOs responded and they were able to manage. Again, there were so many people that said, how do we then transit to a system that is sustainable? For example, some state governments moved from, the classroom teaching to giving tutors, training sessions, programs, classes on radio. So you need to be adaptive. You need to find a system that can thrive or that will work for you in the middle of crisis. Not that you say, let's watch as things goes. No, you cannot watch. You need to take action that will ensure that your organization is protected and managed properly in the middle of this crisis. A case study is that of Dangote Cement, speaking about the operation across many African countries. One of the things that they have done is to have backward integration. They own their limestone quarries, their power generation, and logistics. And with this, you are able to really manage your operation properly. Imagine that it's a third party that is giving you limestone queries, and you are doing your demand planning, you are doing your forecast, what you can push to the market. You might probably have some problem. For the power generation, is no brainer. But let's imagine they are depending on, the public power utility. For some countries like Ghana, maybe it will work. I don't know about Cameroon. I think Senegal might also work. South Africa, before the load shedding, maybe it will work. But in most of the other African entities or countries, power generation is no brainer. You own it. For logistics also, they are one of the best in market when it comes to managing their logistics services end to end. And for the geographic diversification, operations exist in Nigeria, Ghana, Cameroon, Senegal, Ethiopia, South Africa. And for modular expansion, each plant is designed to be self-sufficient and expandable. Self-sufficient and expandable. Those two things are critical. Self-sufficient and expandable. I think the first part is self-sufficiency. Scaling and expanding, you can always manage it, And when Nigeria faced economic challenges, other markets compensated the group. In 2010, for example, as a case study, they were still able to achieve over $3 billion turnover. And this is critical. This is important, where when there is an issue or when there's a crisis, one market will support, or one product will step in to manage the revenue growth of the organization. And the result is that they became the sub-Saharan Africa's largest cement company, stronger during regional instabilities. There's an advantage, there's a disadvantage to this, but it is what it is with them. All right, proactive planning. Crisis creates unique innovation opportunities. I've seen an opportunity before that when crisis comes, it looks as if an organization will end permanently. But you see, in the middle of crisis, there's room for you to proactively then open your eyes and critically look at the asset your organization have. And from there, you can move on. All right. One of the things it also will do for you when it comes to proactive planning is to have what we call a pre-mortem planning session. I know most people will be used to post-mortem, planning, post-mortem documentation when a project is ending and it has ended badly, a business is dying, you write a post-mortem report for investors and some other things. But you need to start imagining that even before that thing starts, what can you do? How can you imagine the end from the beginning? It's difficult. But what you are even doing is not just the end. You realize that as you are breaking down the issue in the pre-mortem planning session, you'll be seeing where there could be blockers, where could be issues, where there could be regulatory challenges, where there could be problem. And that will help you to understand that you can manage some failure scenarios properly. And what is suggested is to have quarterly session imagining specific failure scenarios. If you are a small business, I would say that quarterly is too long. You might look at it from bi-weekly or maximum monthly, where you are imagining the failure scenarios that you can have on, maybe it's a production planning, whether it is a forecast to your revenue, whether it's engaging your customer, whether it is, improving a particular KPI that is critical for the business. When you go into this pre-mortem planning session, it helps. Now, one thing I will also then say is that when you have found yourself then in some of these crises, when you sit down and you look at exactly how to go through that process, despite the fact that it has started, it gives you an advantage. It gives you an advantage because you are then able to ask yourself questions that may look difficult. Some of them may not make more sense, but as you are asking them, you'll be unraveling what is possible. So how do you achieve this? Is that you work backwards from imagined failures, identify the prevention strategies, and then build early warning systems. Because what we are saying is that despite the fact that crisis will come, how can we prevent them where possible? And when we find ourselves in them, how can we do it in such a way that we have built a system that will help us to survive those crises? Imagine you have something that shows you, early warning systems. It gives you a lot of opportunity. I give an example. There are some areas where some dangerous chemicals are used, like ammonia. You see that there's a warning signal for ammonia leakage in some of those plants. Why is it important? It's important because if too much of it is exposed to the atmosphere and is unknown to some people, especially people that even have problem with smell, the person can find themselves in a critical medical condition, and this becomes another issue. For example, also, imagine you have an IoT system that can help you know when someone is locked in a, let's say, a huge and large freezer in your organization. There have been scenarios of, reports of people, even in developed countries, who died in the freezing unit of their business, especially the large, businesses. Why? Because maybe there were no early warning systems or even notification systems that tries to check from time to time, say every 1 minute, every 20 minutes, or whatever it is, if any human life is in that space. Whatever it is, it can be done, it is possible. So just identify these prevention strategies, and as much as you can do them, it will help your business to survive and to see the light of day. All right, the innovation opportunity window, like I mentioned, crisis creates unique innovation opportunities. So the constraint that you have normally that, if you do this will happen, you don't have them any longer. Then you can think freely, then you can do things freely. You are seldom, sometimes even in survival mode. So explore and ensure that you take advantage of what you can innovate in the midst of that crisis. All right, creating space for breakthrough solutions. All right, for the leaders, simultaneously manage crisis and capture innovation opportunities through scenario planning. Despite the fact that you are in the middle of that crisis as a leader, You need to start imagining yourself to say that, this thing that is happening, I'm going to have a loss of A, I'm going to have a loss of B. Hopefully it's not loss of human, but if it's loss of resources, revenue, money, whatever asset, whatever it is, provided it's not majorly about lives of people, then you can find yourself finding innovation opportunities, by planning the scenario to say, what if we do this? What if we do that? What if we do this? What if we do this? And because you are in the middle of crisis, I would say that some of those things that you have in mind as what if, you should implement them immediately, provided that the local laws, and regulatory conditions permit you. All right, if you think you are too small to make a difference, try sleeping in a closed room with a mosquito, an African proverb. Every detail in pre-mortem planning matters. Small overlooked issues can become major problems. Don't underestimate any potential failure point. Don't underestimate any potential failure point. You can imagine how many homes we have in the West or developed countries where there is fire extinguisher, there is fire alarm, there is so many things that is linked into the home. In some cases of a smart home, there are even third parties who are watching over the home when there is intrusion of human, intrusion of a third party, there is a fire incident, whatever it is. Imagine how much of danger and life that is prevented from being lost. Unlike other entity that nothing even is really hypothetically systemically managed in terms of overview of fire and other disaster that might come up. So don't underestimate any potential failure points. All right, MTN Nigeria's pre-mortem planning session. This is a mix of two things, but what has then happened is that regulator charged MTN $5.2 billion fine for not deactivating unregistered SIM cards. Yes, the company already knows that they have regulatory compliance and potential failure point, and they started developing adequate response protocol. What then happened is that there was immediate public engagement over the issue. A dedicated information center was created. The stakeholder engagement plan were already pre-developed to say that, when we get here, what do we do at this stage? How do we manage it? And I need to double check this information. I think the fine was even reduced to be lower than 1.7 billion, but I would come back next week to fact check that. But the fine was obviously reduced, and as of today, MTN is one of the leader in Africa when it comes to corporate governance, and they've grown their customer base to over 70 million. I think I will also double check the last report that they had in their H1 report and provide that next week. All right, resource management. Mark your presence. You need to establish strategic reserve capabilities. Maintain at least 15 to 20% organizational capacity in reserve, whether it is financial reserve, whether it is human resource bandwidth, whether it is operational capacity buffers. Make sure you have this in plan. One of the things I've seen, especially with multinational, is that at almost any point in time, whether it's a raw material, whether it's utility resources like diesel, petrol, there is always a buffer to ensure that what if anything happens, and that we need to do. For the human resource bandwidth, what you might need to do is, if you don't have that buffer, you might need to draft other people in from different other units to serve, to support, to manage that scenario. And same thing happens with your operational capacity. This we can learn talking about corporate finance best practices and also the military strategic planning. It's a classical study or classical example of how you must establish strategic reserve capabilities. All right, physical and digital presence becomes exponentially important. Leaders must be hyper visible, accessible, and consistently messaging across all platforms. Modern requirements then says that multi-channel presence requires reserve facility capacity for crisis communication. You must try hard to ensure you use as many platforms that you can to engage, because you don't want to leave out anyone in that communication channel. You don't want to leave anyone. You don't want to miss anyone. You don't want anyone to come back to say, oh, because I did not know, this is what has then happened to me. All right. The elephant does not limp when walking on tongues. The elephant does not limp when walking on tongues. And what this is speaking to is that strong leaders maintain composure and steady progress even when navigating difficult circumstances. You don't want to be that leader that loses his or her own emotion in the middle of a crisis. Reserve capacity enables leaders to maintain steady composure under pressure. If you don't have enough resources, you'll be scampering, looking for where to get resources, and it might be late and it might affect the entire organization. All right, an example of strategic reserve capacity failure, a case study is that of ShopRite Africa. For those who are aware, ShopRite had a lot of issues. I think one of the ones reserve capacity gap that is missing here is that of capacity to leverage the foreign currency versus the local currency. How much of it do you have to be able to manage, especially some of the importations that they were doing? So they had insufficient local market research reserves, limited cultural adaptation capacity, inadequate capital reserves for extended market penetration, lack of operational flexibility for informal market competition, and this failure has led them to exit at least, I think, 2 or 3 African markets, including Nigeria. Nigeria now, I think they are now a franchise, selling the franchise to someone else to continue the operation and returning back to South Africa. But in contrast, MTN and MultiChoice DSTV from same region succeeded by maintaining 20% plus operational reserves and cultural adaptation capacity. I think this is critical. This is important, especially when you want to navigate a terrain that you're not used to, a new market, a new location, a new business unit. You need to ensure that you, say for example, you are planning to have a product launch, and to achieve that launch and all the things that you do to get to market, you need about, say, an example, 5 million naira. Have a reserve to say that what if this thing does not go to plan, things are slow, things are delayed, and I need to do something else that will require much more fund or capacity. Please have that in mind. And if you have that across your business, it will also help, so that in the case where things will not go as desired, you then be able to fall back to that reserve capacity. Strategic reserve must include cultural, operational, and financial buffers for African businesses. So I'd love to say thank you for joining me today. I hope it's been an engaging session for you. I hope you've learned 1 or 2 things. We'll not be able to finalize, this conversation today in terms of how to have a future, proof leadership experience, how to build your team to have resilience, build your team to be ready for crisis, build your team to be able to manage organizational issues and challenges when they arise or when they come up. We'll continue next week. I would come back with more details, at least 5 more things we can do, and then some other practical personal stories that can guide our thoughts and our narrations as to how we can achieve a future-proof leadership experience and building our team to be resilient and ready for future challenges.